Welcome back, everybody. Welcome to the Feminine Leadership Summit. Oh, I'm really excited, feeling like tingly all over my body to introduce you to this power couple, Dov and Nicole. Dov and Nicole are a transformational power couple whose connection, collective experiences, traumas, addictions, near-death experiences, and losses have led them to the activation of unparalleled spiritual gifts meant to help humanity evolve at the quicker pace that the times are calling for. They since left their respective businesses and legal careers to dedicate their lives to helping others remember their true selves and unleash their pure potential. While you can't truly name the gifts that Dov and Nicole offer, they can be described as high-level energy healers, consciousness mentors, channels, and non-traditional psychics, to name a few. Mostly, Dov and Nicole possess a unique capacity to clear the root causes of seemingly unbreakable cycles and patterns that plague you and keep you stuck in addiction, painful relationships, and lack of abundance, joy, and meaning. And so through this work, clients experience immediate shifts in record time, including the activation of a deep knowing of your value, the old falling away gracefully, and the life that you were truly meant for shining forth. Their souls are here to express a state of divine power and loving presence to help others transform their lives, their relationships, business, communities, and planet through their being. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
Feeling it.
Just words, just the language, right? When we start to speak the truth, how it's already shifting the consciousness, it's shifting everyone that's watching it. Everyone's moving and remembering who they are at a deep level, because sometimes actually we always forget. And so it's like, even me just hearing it, I'm like, yes, because the resistance that we have been experiencing to get to this interview, because this interview is very, very important because of who is watching it and all the shifts that are going to take place and the transformative things that are happening on this planet. The resistance that Dov and I have felt today were huge. And when I have resistance from outside of me, inside of me, and all around me, coming from friends and energies, I know that what we're about to partake in is very important and very divine. And we just bear down and we surrender to that call and to the mission and to whatever my higher self asks me to do. I'm like, yes. So yeah, so
thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. I feel it. I feel the potency. And yeah, I really feel like when I was reading that and it said, you know, what your clients receive. And I really want to tell everybody who's listening, watching, receiving right now, this is for you. Like right now, you get to have a divine paradigm shift for good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Chills everywhere. It is absolutely yours. It's absolutely yours to have. It's absolutely within your control and your power. And it's always about remembrance. You know, we're not broken. We're not in a place where we have to really be healed. We use the word healing because it's a word that we all relate to in the language that we speak and in the society we live. But the truth is that it's really about a remembrance. It's about an alignment, which we'll talk about later. It's about a coming back to and a co-creating of your power and your essence. And that is really a powerful place. And as you're hearing this, you know, you're already able to activate, right? If you've heard people talk about activating, maybe it's new for you, maybe it's not new for you, you know, activating is really, it's really the remembrance. It's the waking up, it's shaking you, right? And so I feel, I'm really honoring all of you guys watching this too, because I'm feeling that.
Beautiful. Yeah, the remembrance of who we truly are. So I'd love to hear a little bit. I mean, this is my first time meeting you guys. And for anybody who is as well, I know, just anything that wants to come through about your own kind of personal journeys for how you got to be here.
Absolutely.
Would you like to start, beautiful?
Sure. So, you know, for me, it's a little bit relevant to start kind of at the beginning of our relationship, and then to take a little bit of background. But, you know, in our life, Nicole and I came together in a really sort of unexpected and beautiful way. And we found out many years later that we are what people refer to as twin flames. And we didn't know that for many years. And what it did is it created this cataclysmic self-observation and necessity for development at a really deep level. And I think that has always been something that my spirit wanted. It's always been something that I came here for. I took on and wanted to take on a great deal of experiences and pains and traumas in order to bring the way out of that, or the support out of that, or the understanding of how that can be transformed to other people. And so Nicole and I have been together almost 11 years in a couple of months. And through that time, it's really brought us into many different gifts and many different levels. And before we were together, we come from very different backgrounds. And I came from a very spiritual family, and Nicole came from a more conservative religious family. And I spent time in India, and I had this wild little girl that understood, all of these things as your children do, and as children do, and as, people are trying to hold on to. And then we grow, and we're trying to find ways to reconnect to that biological and soul craving, that soul craving that your soul knows what it wants to do here. It knows what it wants to connect to. And the biological, it knows what the historical ancestry connected to. But we often stumble through it. And so at 5, I knew, that I wanted to be a voice, that I wanted to help people, that I wanted to give them an ability to navigate and translate certain things, concepts, experiences. And I watched really, this came for me watching a woman that was burned to death in the street in India. And it was a big impact for me. And I said, why? Why is it happening? Why is nobody saying anything? And it wasn't so much about that, but it was this concept of translation and support and how. And for me, it manifested in a legal career. And it was because that's how I thought that I needed to take those things, right? Your soul essence is saying to you, hey, you want to be an advocate, a translator, and you want to create change, and you want to create meaningful protection, and you want to create love, and you want to use your language, and you want to use your thoughts and your logic mind, right? Because these are all the things I knew, but I didn't know what it would look like. And when I got into that, I knew something was missing. It wasn't complete. And the reason I started with my relationship with Nicole was because, thank God, she looked at me one day and she said, we're going to drop everything. We're going to move out of state, and we're going to do our mission. We're going to show up for people 100%. And it was the wildest, scariest, one of the scariest experiences of our lives. But now I can say that today, we are constantly building that full self-expression. And when you're in that full self-expression, the beautiful thing is that things magnetically do work. And everybody looked at me and said, how could you leave your legal career? How does that make any sense? What in God's name are you saying that you're going to go do? This is insane. And what I love about that is that being in that full expression of what I want to do, it has provided in many, many ways that even a reasonable or a safe job did not provide in a lot of ways. And that has also given me this background and this logic. And so when people come to me, and we have clients in all different arenas, and they come to us and I say, if you're a spiritual leader, that's amazing. And if you are the CEO of a corporation, that's amazing. And if you're a stockbroker, that's amazing. If you're a lawyer, that's amazing. Because I understand. I understand all of it, and I understand the universe is balance and it is logic. And I understand that we can create profound change, but I know how to have the conversation with you, and I understand you, and I see you. So background has been, wild and interesting, but I'm grateful for it.
So I'm American Italian, so I'm going to hand my puppy over to her because
I didn't even see it.
First of all, I feel everyone's energy that's watching this, as this is pre-recorded, and I honor you, right? I keep hearing, they will know you by your love. There's so much fear in the divine feminine to be in your power because you feel alone. It's scary to be a leader, and it's scary to be in your full expression, but they're going to recognize you because of your love. And when I was a little baby, I remember the word love, and love was like a passionate thing for me. When I heard the word, I just lit up, and I knew, because I was coded in it, and I knew that I was supposed to learn about it and experience it. And so I incarnate in a family that's like, oof, it was hard, right? Like a lot of abuse. Later on in life, I found out I was sexually abused. A lot of drug addiction, really hard things that are conditional. I go right into hell, like literally going to hell with this big ball of love to experience that. And I remember when my parents would like love me when like, you know, I was doing really well. And then all of a sudden I would do something like kind of messed up and they would not love me. And I would be like this little kid with my hands up and I'd be like, that's not love. That is not love. You're supposed to love me anyways. And I was really tiny. And I always get that picture of this little being like fighting with them. Like, I want to tell you what love is. It's unconditional. And I knew since I was little. And then I remember when I was little, I heard Christ's name, Christ conscious love, this love that is in everything. And, you know, I ended up going into a very religious, you know, sector of my life with my family and, you know, more conditions, more boxed in, more judgment and experience hell. Everything was so painful. And so I have all these wounds and traumas from this lifetime and other lifetimes. You know, I incarnated in many hard places for a very long time. And I know that because my soul said yes. My soul said, I have to go into hell because I need to show people how to unravel hell. I need to show people how to go and get parts of themselves out of there. And so I surrendered my life. I surrendered my being to that experience, which was like very hard. I got lost in it. I almost died in it. I almost overdosed 11 times. I was almost murdered. Like, I remember the time I almost got murdered. Dove was there. Like, her essence was there. And she wasn't really there. She saved my life. I had to jump out of a window. I don't even know why I'm telling this story, but I had to jump out of a window because I heard her, you have to jump. And I put myself in drug addiction experiences that caused those experiences because those were symptoms of all the trauma. Right? Every little wound started to breed a symptom, started to breed distortions, started to breed ways to actually survive. And so I started to act out and I started to use women and I started to use drugs and I started to use alcohol and I started to use everything because I didn't understand that I myself had all of God's love within me. And I had access to healing myself and getting back to a place of remembering who I am and understanding who I am. And so I get lost and I start to ask for help at some points. And the messages, oh my God, the messages that came in. So I remember I got into a car accident where I almost lost my right foot. And I'm in the hospital and my face is busted up. And this woman comes in and she's like, you know, when a shepherd's sheep leaves the flock, they break their leg. And then he carries the sheep on his shoulder until he gets better. And she goes, I just wanted to say that to you. And I was like, you know, like, oh, well, you just saved me maybe from some stuff. And I still didn't get better, but the signs would come in and I would ask for help and I would go to rehabs and I would do all these things. And little by little, I was being deprogrammed from all the stuff that I believed that I learned in my home, all the stuff that I believed that I learned in life. And as I'm being deprogrammed, I'm being reprogrammed with the truth. And I start to awaken more and more. And I always had the gift of healing. I always was love. So if we connect to love and we connect to that source energy, there's nothing that we can't do. And so I was always able to connect. Like her mom, I love her mom so much. I always would sit in front of her and be like, why am I not dead? And she's like, you're love, baby, you're love. She's French. She has an accent. I don't want to botch it up. She didn't talk like that. But she was like, fuck that shit. Sorry, I'm cursing. She's like, fuck this shit. You have love. And I was like, wait, mama. And Dove, now that I'm bringing up Dove's mom, when I met Dove and I saw her picture, it woke me. I remembered her. I didn't remember where, but I just knew that I knew her. And, you know, all of the things started to unfold and our relationship started to create this bond again, like this remembrance, this union energy that would be this bridge to the mission that we were going to have. So we started to build back into the union that we already are. So Dove and I are connected at soul level in a union template that is so powerful and beautiful. And the thing about it is when you're in this human form and you have all the trauma that Dove and I had and all of the belief systems that really aren't aligned with true love, it's very hard to polarize, even though it wants to, right? So we want to love each other. And then we started to fight and resist because those things were like, if you imagine a positive and negative magnet, they stick together. But if you flip one of them, it pushes the other one away. So we had these moments of like push-pull and romance and sexiness and all of these things. And then we went through our version of diving into hell again together, and to heal the wounds and to heal for the collective, and to start to see the things that we needed to heal collectively, and face as a collective the things that the masculine has done to the feminine, the things that the masculine has done to life, and the things that the feminine's gone through, and taking back her power and being this beautiful woman who's all in her power and does it, has her autonomy and can stand in that. And once we started to get in that place of moving and shifting and healing and remembering, the polarization started to, come together. And before that happened, we separated, and I had cheated and left because I could not bear the intensity of this relationship. And I thought that it would be easier for me to leave it. And I wanted to have easy. I was like, I need easy. And what happened was it wasn't easier. I missed her so much. And I was out of alignment that at the time, I was completely clean at the time. But if you looked at a picture of me from not being in her presence and with her, I was withering and dying. My complexion was pale. I looked 10 years older than I do now. I looked like I was using drugs again. For you guys, when we're out of alignment, we know it doesn't feel right. I mean, we go through deep dives of purge. That's not what I'm talking about. But when we're not in alignment, you get that gut feeling like this isn't right. Something's wrong. And when we're in alignment, everything is lit, and you have access to peace, and you can move through some of the stuff that you're going through a little quicker, and it feels yummy as hell when you're expressing yourself divinely in alignment of who you are. And when I am with this woman, no matter what's happening, when I'm with her, like we have a blueprint that we decided for this lifetime. When I'm with her, no matter what the hell's happening, like every relapse that I ever went through, no matter what we were going through, being next to her, having that remembrance of who I am constantly, able to we refine each other and we grind, and it gets ugly at times, but the fact that she's next to me and there to do it with me, it's always in alignment when I'm next to her. And I do want to say this is that I had to find my autonomy in this relationship as well. And all you ladies, we got to find that autonomy, because she doesn't make me whole. She doesn't make me, she's like, I was going to pull a Jerry Maguire right now. You complete me. No, I complete me. But when I'm with her, I'm in this purpose and mission that I know that in this lifetime, we are doing together. And also her frequency is something that's so familiar to me that it's friggin' home. And that home reminds me of God, and that home reminds me of source, and that home reminds me of how friggin' badass Mother Earth is, and how she is just the everything. She's Mother God. And it reminds me of all those things to be next to her.
I'm just gonna breathe all that in. Yeah, I really hear, Dov, like the bridge that you are from the old paradigm, when we could call it, and then the new paradigm that we're creating, to be able to speak to both and understand both worlds. I really hear your deep love and trust, and walking through the fire together. I scribbled things down because it was I just really wanted to stay present in this frequency. I was really hearing the insane leap that Nicole, you vouched for and kind of stood for and ushered to take, to truly be living in your divine alignment together.
Yes.
In your purpose, and how terrifying that is, because we live in this other paradigm that is laid out for us, the boxes and the maps and you do this and you get married and you have kids and you buy a house and you have a job and you work and you retire and you die. Completely. I really, really honor that. There's so much. I really get for me, like, I mean, I'm definitely like, I've always been an open, kind of brought up from a hippie feminist mom. I'm woo-woo. but but I'm also like, there's a part of me that's been resistant to this twin flame kind of concept of, I guess, not wanting to box it in. Or when I hear or I see some people maybe in what might look like, who really knows, but what might look like an unhealthy or a codependent relationship. And I really hear how you've walked through those things and like found that sovereignty and that autonomy. But yeah, where people kind of use that even twin flame to like make excuses maybe for an unhealthy kind of relationship. But I believe that I'm in my twin flame relationship now, and had just the most powerful experience. And I think for me, like, really anchoring and committing and choosing to stay in relationship has been one of my biggest things. So it's really easy for me to like find the loops of like, no, it's I want it to be easy, right? As you said. But I had this powerful experience that it was just like angels and choirs of angels singing, and of like, yes, 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 yes. Do you get it now? Like, do you get it? Yes. Like just the universe celebrating. And it was so intense, and it would not stop until I would finally receive. Like, this is my man. Like, this is my partner. Mm-hmm. And I really felt that. It felt in some ways it felt like two halves coming into a whole. Mm-hmm. But it also was like, we're two wholes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm curious. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm curious if there is something that wants to come through there around, for anybody who's curious about twin flames.
Yeah, we work not exclusively with twins, but it began that the connection kind of helped birth and magnetize, I should say, some of the gifts that we had, which, because we work and understand these concepts of being able to go back to the core and going back to your center and going back to your power and your limitlessness, and really being able to wash away. We were speaking the other day, it doesn't matter if you think that your problems are too much for somebody, or that you think you can't get through something, or that, we really, our experience has allowed us to come up against that. But, you said a lot of things that are, firstly, it really is quite complex, right?
Yes.
It's the connection is quite complex. And what I say to people often is it's also so much more than a relationship. So, in balancing this concept of, don't allow yourself to be boxed, allow yourself to use, we didn't know for many, many, many years. So we didn't necessarily look for it, and we didn't let it box us. We allowed the information that resonated to assist in clarity for us. But there is many types of relationships, and one is not better than any other, and one is not higher than any other, which I think is something people torture themselves with. It's whether your soul decided that it was going to have that physical experience with that energy. And, you described it quite nicely. It does feel, in a complex way, it is two parts of an essence coming back together, but those parts both individually have their own autonomy and their own wholeness and their own blueprint and their own wellness and their own activation. And I think that where it can become, like anything, we can become sort of in a state of bypassing, or in a state of self-degradation, because we feel, I can't do anything good in this lifetime, or I can't move forward in my purpose, or I can't do this or do that, or if I don't have this particular connection, that I should, only be looking for that. And when it comes through, it will come through pretty loud and clear, like a train. Just like you said, you'll get the sign after sign after sign after sign. I'm really calling you to pay attention to it. And so when I said that it's not just a relationship, for me, it really truly is many, many things. And there are two separate concepts. There's the relationship and the union. And the union is actually just always with you. It's sort of this essence that you are. And to that, I tell anyone who feels that they're a twin that they stay responsible to that. And that really just means staying responsible to your own work at a really deep level, and to any limited work or vast work, it depends on the person, they feel they need to clean up with that other person, from past life to present life to, you know, whatever. And even if they're not in a relationship, and even if it's only energetic, and even if it's it's almost a responsibility to the essence of yourself. And then there's a whole nother component, which is this concept of having a relationship, which is just one facet of the connection, a physical relationship with the person. And for me, relationships, and Nicole and I have talked quite a bit, relationships are a very large catalyst to evolution. In the universe is dictated by universal principles and guidelines. We don't just kind of spin out in space with randomness. Everything is sort of in this harmonious geometric formation, right? Even down to how much science is able to see and show and prove all of these things. And so everything exists in relation to something else. And I found over the years that we have been conditioned to believe that, you know, the only way you can get to, you know, yourself is alone. The only way, and there's been especially in Western culture, it's a very isolated, you know, you're going to pull yourself up by your bootstraps alone. You're going to do it alone in life. You're going to do it alone in business. You're going to, you know, you can't bring a partner in until you have all your stuff together. And that's very predominant in twin connection or twin community as well, which is like, you know, you have to be at a level of evolution that is like maximized above everyone else to even be able to come into contact. There is a facet of that has some truth, but what it really is that these things elevate, and all relationships elevate our evolution, right? And I tell people all the time, I say relationships in general are phenomenally incredible evolutionary tools, because you can think you have all your stuff together, and the moment you're in a poignant relationship, you are just acting in ways, and you look around and you just go, who is this person? This person is who you are when you're naked in front of a mirror with yourself, versus when we can just kind of, it is very easy to live a life without a stimulating trigger, right? Without traffic and without noise and without people, and with, you know, we'll miss people, but it's easy to stay untriggered. And the question is, you know, how are we when we're in relationship to other beings and other things? And so I have looked at it as, and I feel that Nicole and I also chose, I want to say something else, is that if you were not choosing as a soul, or designed to as a soul have a twin connection in this life, there is nothing wrong with you. A lot of people, their twin is deceased, or they're with a soulmate, or they didn't incarnate together. You were absolutely able to have all of the joy and the bliss and the goodness. And, you know, for Nicole and I, we saw so clearly that we also wanted the relationship, because it is a pretty continuous and constant press into our evolution, to be able to show up and serve this planet at a higher and higher and higher level. And at least for us in the design, because I feel it's quite unique for people, in our design, it has kept us on our toes, and we do 100 times more work than we ask of anyone else. And we still do a lot of work together, and it's still a pretty activated thing, because not only we're looking at the heaps of stuff and experiences that Nicole was talking about, but we also now do it on a collective basis. And we look at historical and human and energetic, behavioral, and psychological weight that the planet is taking on, and how we're going to shift, and what we need to do to create something that feels more like something we want to let our children inherit. And in order to do that, we become sort of this microcosm to this macro vision, right? So with all of your lives, and shifting out of that twin flame thing with the last thing that I will say, is that all of the change is going to begin and is housed inside of you, as if you were this projector, right? If you're going to the movies and the screen is glitching, you know, we don't walk to the screen and start shaking the screen. We go in the back and look at the projector. And this is fundamentally the world. We look at all of the things that are happening in the world. The world is the projector of each and every one of us. Mm-hmm. And so for me, and the way that I serve, and the way that Nicole and I have decided to serve, and we have taken on as many facets of what's happening in that projection into our own lives. When we were incarnated, we were born into these lives with all these different, facets, so that we can correct those and see and understand that if you feel insignificant, you're not. If you feel that there's nothing you could do, or you're overwhelmed, or you're sad because of something that's happening in this world, you're powerful. You're deeply powerful. And if you feel like, well, you know what, Dov, I don't want to go, out and become a mentor. I don't want to go out and have a platform. You don't have to, because the fundamental truth is, if you come into a center, into an authenticity with yourself, and you correct these things, and you come into a state of understanding or moving towards self-love and facing ourselves and allowing ourselves to evolve, you become an unlocked energy. You become an energy that's projecting a facet of that world that we all want to experience. So we feel very insignificant sometimes, and in many ways we're so small, but if we each individually understand how this dynamic can shift inside of us, all those things on the outside, that projection, that's the symptom, and the symptoms will change. So I know that we shifted a little bit out of the twin flame, but I allowed spirit to kind of guide whatever needed to come through. So hopefully that's resonating for you and some of you out there as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm feeling that. Yeah, I just kind of like psychically can hear, so when things come up for those who are listening, of like, what is a twin flame, and what, so really grateful for you just bringing so much clarity to that, and taking away any of the shame and the judgment around if we haven't met them, if we're supposed to,
right.
Am I supposed to have all my shit together and be totally healed? And before that's possible, I've got to be good enough.
We're always, and there is no destination. I will say that for every single one of you, you can just take that off. There's no graduation, there's no destination, there's no diploma, there's no certification. And in fact, the moment that you're really starting to get to a next level is when you're going to realize that you really know a lot less than you thought. And that's that stage of deprogramming that Nicole was talking about. You start to drop out those ideas, and it can feel really weird and frightening. And it's why it's really nice to have support if you're having a really big shift. But absolutely, this is a process. It's an evolution, and it does not make you smaller. I know Nicole wants to say something.
Yeah.
Well, no, because you said something so important, and I'm like, we have to go there. You were talking about like the, using it as an excuse to stay codependent, or, do all these things that are nasty to each other. And I really want to address that. Is that, like, for Dov and I, like, I don't condone any of that stuff. Does it happen in twin flame relationships? Hell yeah. Why does it happen? Because we incarnate in those places I was telling you about. We specifically incarnate in these hard places because of what we came to do. And so we bring attention to these things. I can remember when, I was in the deepest, ugliest portion of my drug addiction with Dov, and I was acting disgusting, and I was leaving for 3 days at a time. And I was just, all of the things that I was doing, it wasn't that I wanted to do those things. My heart wasn't like, yes, we're going to screw Dov over today. I'm not going to show up for Christmas today, because I was in so much pain and I couldn't show up, and I didn't know how to show up high, or I didn't know how to be. And we have to look a little bit deeper at why people are doing these things, why people are codependent, why they're smashing drugs into their arm, why those things are happening. And I don't condone abuse. And I don't condone those things. But what I do is I don't have judgment fully for them. I don't have any judgment for them, because I have to say that when Dov and I were at the peak moment of me being just in the depths of hell, Dov decided to just love me unconditionally, like she never loved me before. And I remember I sat down with her at the table, and I said to her, I said, baby, I know I've tried to get clean multiple times, and I want to get clean, but I'm not sure I can right in this moment, but I know that I'm going to, and I just need you to love me. I just need you to love me. And she just looked at me and she's like, I can do that. She's like, please don't spend all our money and please don't die. And what she did was she didn't judge me anymore. And she'd come home from work and the house would be clean, and I'd cook her dinner, And I started to feel like good. And I was like doing 20 bags of heroin a day and smoking crack, and I was messed up. And my wife just kept coming home, and she's like, I love you. And we were close, and we were being intimate. And what started to happen was I started to allow love into all these places while I was really not in a good place. So there was nothing that I had done. There was nothing that I had said. There's nothing that I had achieved to make myself feel better. I just was allowing love in at a time that I felt most people would feel unlovable. And in weeks, I looked at her and I was like, I want to get clean because I just let love in. And so what I want to say is, there was a part of this story that my wife started to set boundaries, and my wife started to do the work. And it was at the time that we were in separation. And I really want to say this, that this was the pivotal point for me to change the way I treated her. I didn't treat her very well when I was using drugs. I had behaviors that I learned in my home that we just curse each other out. And when we were really scared, we'd really curse each other out. And I would bring a lot of just anger into the relationship. And when my wife started to set boundaries, that's not okay for me right now. And my wife started to grow. Something shifted in me. So the thing about a twin flame relationship was when one person shifts, it doesn't change the other person completely, but it leaves the opportunity for the dynamic to shift. And I want to say that again, when one person shifts, the lighthouse, I call it, the first one to just kind of be like, I'm willing to do the work. When they start to shift, what happens is the other energy is getting fed to that union energy that I was talking about. And my soul was getting fed, and I was starting to remember, and I was starting to shift. And all of a sudden I was like, whoa, okay, wait a second. And then there was space for me to get help. Do twins sometimes get lost and not come back? Yeah, I've seen it. Do they not want help? Sure, we can't judge that. I don't judge what a soul wants to experience in this life. We have free will. It's a beautiful thing, whether you want to experience it being homeless on the street, or you want to experience being a billionaire, or you want to experience whatever it is that you want to experience. We honor that because I know Source honors that completely. And so that shift happened with letting love in. And that's a huge part of the divine feminine, is this receivership. And it's really hard to receive when you're not worthy or don't feel worthy, or you have all these wounds, or you're in an abusive relationship and it's really hard. But when we start to do this work and we start to allow and set and this is the thing, is the boundaries are love. Boundaries have integrity built. Boundaries are the container for all things. Boundaries need to be set within every relationship. Boundaries need to be there. We need to find out what our values are and hold them tight and be like, this is who I am, and this is what this is what I'm willing to do with you. This is what I'm willing not to do with you. And as we start to sift through that, we really create that. We're so much frequency that we create that. And it's so important that in any relationship that we get the voice to create that. And when she started to create that, it opened up just this whole universe to constantly having to create and constantly breaking the integrity and going back to integrity and breaking it and building it. And that structure is what kept us together and what's kept our mission afloat and kept our purpose afloat.
Yeah. Oh, so simple.
And complex.
So complicated,
so
hard.
Complex.
Yeah,
Unconditional love.
It's so complex in application because we have a lot of complexities within us. We have a lot of people have a lot of wounds. We talked about a label. We talked about a concept, a relational concept, right? And there are a lot of labels that we use, a lot of labels, and labels are becoming even stronger. And the labels create boxes, and they, I always tell people to use concepts to give you a jumping off point, a place to understand something and a place to connect. Don't use it to over limit you. Don't use it to withhold or restrain you, from being able to move past something or understand past something. And there are reasons, right? So a lot of the labels that we use in life, like codependency and so on, there are wounds, there are behaviors, there are things that you witnessed, there are, conditions on you. There are, women have many, many conditions, societal expectations, historical abuses, historical ideas. There are so many things that keep us or promote us to fall into a certain behavior. And it is too simple talking about what's simple and complex. It's too simple to just place a label onto yourself and just say, this is it and this is my problem, or that's that person's problem. You know, and for me, something that's very important for women to understand is as we're healing and rising and shifting, the divine feminine is rising and shifting, we need to stop the cycle of the divine masculine, you know, being the ruler and then oppressing the feminine. And then we can't then come up and oppress another group or oppress another side. We have to come up and say, okay, we both have to stand now on the same platform. We have to stand in the same space. We have to do it together. The future is all of us together. The future is understanding these things in balance together. And so, yes, it can get really complex. You know, when I'm working with people or Nicole's working with people, I see all the little facets, and we inherit the thought of our mom or the slogan that we read on the bus, or, you know, the comment on Instagram, and we don't even question, right? When people say, like, it is what it is, you know, we don't question, what does that even mean? Nothing is what it is. It is what we say it is. And so we're constantly repeating back or living by or abiding by things that we don't even question with ourselves. And so it becomes a challenge sometimes. And so if you are finding it, that it's such a simple idea, but you find, like, I tell people sometimes, they say, I don't know how to make a decision. I say, well, what does your heart say? And that feels like a foreign concept. If that feels like a foreign concept to you, you're not alone. There are many, many walls and restructuring of understandings to be able to come to the simplicity that we are. You know, when we say that love is all that exists, and then so many concepts want to battle that because the concept sounds so simple, it's the most fundamentally complex thing, because we have built ideas, concepts, structures from big and far from what you see and don't see that have worked directly in opposition to that. So it might be fundamentally simple, but in application it's something else. And to get to those simplicities, it's where the work happens, right? So to get to the fundamental simplicities, it's where we have to do the work. And so if you feel like I'm standing on the lily pad over here and I understand what you guys are saying, but I don't really know how to get to that other lily pad that I feel like your concept is on, there's nothing wrong with you. That in between over the water that's the work, right? When people say to me, what is the work that you're talking about? The work is whatever it manifests for you. Nicole and I do it one way, but it can be any practice of removing the blocks and the traumas and realigning the belief systems and dumping the container that you are. You are like a vessel, a container, full. You are full. You know, and we are so oversaturated with grief and experience and suppression that we're not able to release these things to come back to understanding ourselves, to coming back to any alignment. We talk a lot about alignment in the world today, from multi-level marketers to spiritual people to gurus to it is universal now. The problem is that a lot of us have taken it as a bumper sticker and we don't understand it anymore. And alignment to me simply means the self-expression of who you are, like your essence. And sometimes we have to take a journey to remember what that is.
Yes.
Actually, often and always, because we're forgetful when we come into this life. But to be in your self-expression, we also are cluttered. We're like, our bodies are sick from grief and from experience. They're sick from not releasing. We don't look at each other normally if we scream and cry spontaneously, or we need to let something go. If you've ever noticed how healthy your children are, or children in general are, because they're upset that they didn't get the extra crackers at dinner, and they will get down on the floor and they will just wail and release and have a tantrum, and 2 minutes later they're well and healthy and jumping and playing. Well, you know what? There's something to that. There's a biological essence to that. There's an importance to that. And it's really where we need to start to shift.
Yes.
Is in this conversation, and profoundly necessary for this entire planet and every single one of you. And women you've held tremendous grief. And if you say like, well, nothing's really happened in my life, but it's happened in your life through your mother and your grandmother. It's happened in your life through history. It's happened in your life through everything that happens on a day-to-day basis right now. It's happened through your sister, or it's happened through me. It's tremendous and it's heavy. And you might wake up just a little bit irritated, or a little bit low, or a little bit bummed, or a little sad, or a little bit snappy, and you can't, a little anxious, and you can't put your finger, or a lot of those things, and you can't seem to place your finger on it. Your container is too full. It's too full, and it has to be emptied. And then that brings us back into the potential to feel love, to receive that love Nicole was talking about, to align ourselves, to be excited again. If you're 100% full with those things, there isn't even space for excitement or joy or health or creativity or self-determination, whatever it is. There's no space. It's maxed out. And maybe you have 20% space or 30% space, but really as a culture and as a world, it's time to get to a much higher number so that we can really start to do that, and we can feel vulnerable. We can't feel vulnerable with each other because we feel full. We can't feel vulnerable with each other because we feel we have to protect constantly, because everyone else feels like they have to protect constantly, right? So who wants to go outside and just be like, hi, I'm here to love you, when you feel the energy, even if you say, I don't feel energy, I don't know what that means. You feel, all of us are hardwired to feel something. You can call it your gut instinct, it doesn't matter. You know, billionaire business people, they didn't create their empire without feeling. They call it something else. They call it their gut, but it doesn't matter. That's what they're doing. And you come out in the world and you know that everybody has got armor on because they're scared. And why would you want to show up with, little leaves glued to you and like no armor and just like, hi, I love you, right? And so it really does have to be a fundamental change. That's why we said at the beginning that you have the potential to create so much change. You have the potential to create so much change, because if it doesn't start with all of us, then we can't create that wild, radical shift. And the feminine has endurance, and it is creation. You create life, the world, intuition, imagination, art. And even men, we all have feminine in us, and that's where it comes from in them. And so it's really time, because we already hold the weight of the world, to do it in a different way where it really does make sense and work and resonate and feel good for us.
Guys, fuck. Thank you so much. And I just, oh my God, I feel like I just want to go forever, and I really want to honor your time. And this is the longest interview we've had, and there's just so much depth in it. And I want to speak to so much that you're saying, and I'm just going to invite everybody to like rewind and play again and write things down and really feel into the triggers and the places where love is longing to be let in.
Yeah.
You just answered all my questions, so thank you. And I just want to, I want to just leave a little space if there's anything else that divinely wants to come through.
You are so loved. You're so, so loved. This universe loves you. Every cell within you loves you. You have 50 trillion cells in your body, and they have massive amounts of voltage. And you're like 70 trillion. Like, I was listening to this doctor, and he's like, we're 70 trillion like volts of electricity. And that's a miracle. And so you have the opportunity to you have this brain that's in control of all of it, right? And so there's stuff that goes on in our minds, and there's these beliefs and ideas that we have the opportunity that Dov was talking about to really purge, baby. Start to release them, right? You guys, you find your tribe and being a safe place to release these things, so that you can then let love into those places, so that love can start to fill those spaces, and those ideas and those truths can fill those spaces, so that you could feel alive again, so that you could feel whole again, so that you have access to peace, so you have access to joy, and that you can light up again. And Dov was talking about that expression of self. When I am in my full expression, and I let myself just wild out because I am weird, #AF at times, right? I allow myself to go into that energy. I'm reset, I'm reborn, I am like me. And then what happens when I'm vulnerable is everyone witnesses that and goes, oh, because they know what that is, right? What did I say in the beginning? They'll know you by your love, right? They'll know you by your love. And when you're fully in your essence, that's love. And when they recognize you, because all of you have wounds because we weren't seen and we weren't heard.
Yes.
We weren't seen, we weren't heard.
Yes.
And when we start to say what we want to say and be what we want to be, we get seen, we get heard, you get recognized, you get witnessed, and everything starts to shift. Your sight starts to shift, your life starts to shift, your abundance starts to shift, your marriage starts to shift, your friendships start to shift. Everything begins to shift because all those 50 trillion cells have a frequency and they are the projector of your reality. And when those things start to shift, everything starts to shift. And you are loved, and you are love.
You are loved, and you don't have to do it alone. We are not built to even do it alone. We are built to live in tribe. We are built to connect through tribe. We are built to be witnessed, you know, and I've been speaking a lot, and I will be speaking a lot about this subject, and it feels very big and very important to me. And I really welcome, you know, the opportunity to even mention it for a moment. But we are biologically built to live certain ways, and the way that we have moved away from that, and it will take many generations to go back if we choose to, but we have to understand ourselves that we were built to have 50 people helping us raise our kids. So if you're a mom and you're sitting there going, I cannot provide for my child what they need because you were never designed to be able to give a human every facet of what they need. Just like your partner is not designed to give them every facet, because you know what? Your partner used to be able to leave the house and just go, I want to talk about whatever with Susie, or go, you know, for a hike with Joe, or whatever it was. And it wasn't this. Now we don't live near our families anymore. We don't have tribes. We don't live with, if you are having a crisis in the middle of the night, you're grieving, as I talked about, and you're crying, you're doing it alone. I've had people tell me that they crawl into their closet to cry, or their car. And we were designed to be able to say, you know what? Somebody passed in your life. You're not expected to go to work the next day. The whole town stops and the village stops and they grieve with you.
Yes.
That allows us to move, continue to move forward. And so I want you just to have a taste for what I mean by we are biologically hardwired. Because if we at least understand, it's not about how are we going to go back to that, how are we going to, if we at least understand that we are biologically hardwired for that, then we can start to drop the judgment. And from dropping the shame and the judgment, we have the potential to do something different, because when we are shameful and we are judgmental, we cannot move forward and we cannot do something different. And not only do we have shame and grief, not being able to provide every aspect of what the child needs, but we have resentment against every one of our parents in some way or another, because they're not going to catch every moment. They're not going to catch every conversation. They're not going to be excited about everything. And if you had trauma or addiction or problems in the past, the village could hold the child. The child would still be loved and cared for and taken care of, and you would be loved and taken care of. And so now, if, you know, I watch my friends and I watch the community and I watch the world, and it's like we are just one big bonding wound and imbalance after another, and isolated and feel alone. And I have seen so many instances where if people just understood that they were not alone or had to do it alone, it would have worked out very, very different.
Yes.
And I've lost a lot of friends that didn't think that they could stay in this life any longer, because they didn't realize that they don't have to do it alone, or that they are okay and that they're doing good enough and that they can be held. And so I really wanted to leave that thought for you to just understand that you do not have to do it alone, whatever that means. And that you're very loved, and that we love you, and that we see you, and that we hear you. And that if we can even just begin the conversation of understanding our biology and understanding our history and understanding that we are full right now, we can start to create a change.
Yes.
And you've already created a change, because understanding this information and hearing our words allows you to start to change everything. Through the consciousness, our knowing changes, our beliefs change matter. These are things that even science, if you're the most fundamentally rooted, again, remember, everything's logic, but even if you're fundamentally rooted into the concept of science, understand that this is stuff that is being profoundly measured at this point,
Yes.
that we can actually affect each other's biology. There was a study that said we can affect another person's biology. Their physical DNA structure can change by the way we speak to them. If that's the case, if we can change other human beings, then we absolutely are changing this world by what we believe and think. So I want you to honor yourself for a moment for being in this amazing summit created by this wonderful divine feminine, amazing being that we're so honored and thankful to be part of. And honor yourself for listening, and honor yourself for being part of this, because as you listen, you are not the same anymore. You are already changed. You are already different. And that change in you is going to change everyone that you touch. So we thank all of you guys so much.
Yes.
Thank you so
I just changed.
Me too. Thank you so much, Dov and Nicole. Just
Thank you.
deep bows.
You're welcome. Thank you for this opportunity.
Yeah, thank you.
When are we going to hang out?
I
feel
know,
like it's gonna happen.
I know. Can we do more?
I'll give you a big hug.
Oh. And I know that you guys have another gift for everyone, so they can dive in even deeper with you and get support.
Yeah, we have a really nice gift for you guys. It's interesting because we were thinking about what to offer you guys, and we decided to offer something really profound. Not just, we have a beautiful daily clearing and activation, all these things, but we really decided to give something big. And so when we say it's an intensive, if you haven't noticed, we are intense.
It's really intense.
It's really intense, but it's really profound. And what we did was a 90-minute divine feminine intensive, and it's called Unapologetic Woman. And it really is going through the history and yourself and what you've experienced currently in your life and what we've experienced, and really deprogramming the weight that we hold as women and allowing ourselves to come into a place where there is a respect for self, but then taking the next step to not only appreciate that love and respect for self, but to start to heal all of that anger from those that have hurt you, from men that maybe have abused you, from the history that we've had, so that, as I said before, we can stand up together, all of us standing up together. And so it's an amazing and really, really powerful, very activated intensive. And that is our gift to you. And I really honor all of the divine beings that were, part of that, and that you will be part of that feels extremely important. And I hope that you receive that and feel that gift, because it's pretty big, and we love you, and we know that every one of you more than deserves it. It's something that is going to allow a real kickoff.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for having us, and allowing us to connect. And if any of you guys need to connect with us more deeply, we hope that you will find us, and that we find a way to create support for you in any way that you need, through your relationships, your business, or your personal development. We're just here, and we're happy to be part of it with you.
Yeah, and I'll also put a link to your Twin Flame Revolution page.
Thank you.
Yes.
You guys do a lot of Facebook lives and free content.
We do a lot of lives. We do a lot of work. And again, if you guys are not twins or not resonating with that, just understand that that's just who we are, and our work is the revolution. So we work very intensely with leaders, with entrepreneurs, with people that are trying to create consciousness shifts, with people with a lot of trauma. We work very deeply. We work just in self-development and relationships. So it's really expanded, and we're really holding that space. So if you're having any interest, you can always message us and contact us there.
Yeah, and I know working on healing the masculine inside of us all, and the masculine in the brothers.
Absolutely. Nicole just did the most astonishing event, which we are allowing people to purchase as a replay, as a recording, I should say, that I can't recommend enough. And there was a very, very large amount beautiful women on that.
A lot.
Because it's healing within and also healing the dynamic and the relationship, healing our sons, healing our lovers, healing the planet. And I have to say that it was really, 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 really special. So yes, we're working to create that balance.
We are.
Yay. Thank you so much. Deep bows, sisters, and everybody, please let us know what comes up for you as you integrate this love. You can hit reply and let us know in the group, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.